Aizawa, X-reader, late study, older reader, quirk, illusion. Your name's POV. I was a pro hero for a bit, then I decided to work at UA with a couple of other pro heroes. I had worked at UA for a while now. I worked in a class 1A with two other teachers. I got to know the teachers that worked there, and I became friends with them. Well, all but one. He was hard to talk to. He always had a wall or his guard up whenever I tried to talk to him. I tried everything from striking up a conversation, making jokes, offering snacks, and even going as far as to use my quirk to make him smile or laugh, but he would always brush it off or act like if I didn't exist. It hurt me a bit, but I sort of no longer took it to heart anymore. Just sort of vanished. One day, I decided to stay late and grading some month-old papers that I'd never gotten around to, and since the class I teach decided to assign a lot of papers, there's a lot of papers to grade. I tried to grade during my break hours, but I got distracted by someone, so my mind was in the clouds. While I was grading, I had my headphones on and my music blasting loud. I was in the middle of grading when I was in the middle of grading when a hand slammed right in the middle of the papers. I jumped and pulled up my headphones off. I trailed up the up the fuck. I trailed the hand up the arm and into the dark piece of black eyes. I realized it was Aizawa, the one teacher that I never really got to know. Hello? I said, and all he did was sigh. What are you still doing here? Do you know how late it is? He asked, moving his hand away so he can brush his hair out of the way. I shrugged and looked down at my watch. 9:32. I'm sorry, I just forgot to grade and I was allowed to stay late to grade. He sighed and looked over the stack of papers. You need help with them? He asked, pointing to the stack. I nodded. I handed him a couple of papers and went back to my stack. I heard him scoff and I looked at him. Not like I'm complaining, but I think I can grade more than 5 papers. I smiled and handed him a couple more. He walked behind the desk and sat next to me. I was finally on my last paper and I looked over at Aizawa. He had his head in his hand and was sleeping. I sighed and looked at the papers. He only had about 3 left, so I decided to grade the rest. I finished his last papers and I yawned and I looked at the time and it was already close to midnight. I looked over at him and he smiled. He looked so peaceful in his sleep. I decided that I was staring at him for too long and I sighed and a slight look shook at him. Aizawa, hey, get up, come on, wake up. I shook him one last time and he grabbed my wrist and quickly turned his head to look at me. Oh, sorry. He let go of me, cleared his throat. He looked down at where the papers were and looked back at me. Where are my papers? I laughed and held them up. You look tired, so I decided to help you out and grade them rest. He scoffed. Please, I'm always tired. The reason I asked to help you was so I could hurry it up and get the hell out of here and go home. But I just made you work more. I'm sorry. I laughed and shook my head. No, it's fine. I yawned mid-sentence, and he sighed. It's not fine. I smiled and stood up. I should probably go home, I said, and he stood up. Me too. We have work tomorrow anyway. I nodded, and we both walked out of the school. I pulled my hood up, my sweater, because it was starting to rain. Oh crap, my apartment is so far from here. I'm gonna get soaked, I said to myself. Then Aizawa grabbed my hand. You can stay at my place, I guess. I nodded, and we quickly walked to his. Once we were inside, he took my jacket and walked into the halls. When he walked into a room, I stood at his front door and awkwardly as I just looked around the living room, then the dining room. He came back with a towel and some spare clothes. I didn't have any girls' clothes, so these are mine. Hope they fit. I nodded and took the clothes and towel. Then the hall to the right, that's the bathroom. I nodded and walked over to it. The sweatpants he handed me were baggy, and so were the shirt. I dried my hair with the towel and folded it. I put it on the sink and walked out the bathroom. Aizawa was already changed and he had his hair in a ponytail. He was sitting on his couch with a cat laying on his lap. I took another step closer and there was a creak in the floorboards. Both him and the cat looked at me. I smiled and waved. Hey, I said. Aizawa gave me a small smile. Oh, shit, I made him smile? Hello. I sat next to him and started to pet the cat. I smiled and pet under the cat's chin. You like cats? He asked, in a shocked tone. I nodded and removed my hand. Of course I do. I love them. I looked at him and laid back on the couch. I guess I'll wait till the rain dies down, I said with a sigh. They said it would be a storm all night. If you want, you can stay here. I sighed and nodded. I'll sleep on the couch and you can sleep on my bed, he said, laying a blanket down. Oh, no, I couldn't. You can go into your own bed. I'm fine. He shook his head. Just go lay down on my bed. I sighed and walked over to where I believed his room was. I walked in and it was small and simple. I smiled and sat on his bed. I laid myself down on top of his covers and I just stared at the wall. I left the door a crack open because, well, I'm a grown woman and I can't stand the dark or storms, so I left it open just in case I needed some water to calm me down. The storm was loud. I couldn't sleep. I heard the floorboards creak in the hall, so I quickly shut my eyes, pretending to be asleep. I heard the door creak open and I just eased my breathing and curled myself up into a ball. I know you're awake. I opened my eyes and I looked at him confused. How did you know that? I asked, sitting up. I may not talk to you, but I have ears. I heard you telling someone that you hate storms in the dark. I laughed nervously and looked down. Yeah, why are you up? He asked. He walked to the foot of the bed and sat down. Can't sleep? I asked. I laughed. What? How was that funny? He asked. I shook my head. It's just that... How ironic you can't sleep when you're always sleeping. He softly smiled and looked down. I know, it's weird. I moved to the other side of the bed and patted where I was. I can help you sleep. He gave me a confused face and I slowly sat down where my hand was. Lay your head on my lap. I sat with my legs crossed and he laid his head in my lap. I placed 2 fingers on each side of his head and began massaging them. I then slowly put him into an illusion to put him in the most calmest situation that he'd ever thought of. I just continued massaging his head until loud thunder scared me and I jumped, making him fall out of his trace. What happened? What did you do? I was shaking from the last loud thunder and he could tell. You're fine. It's not going to kill you. I took a deep breath and let out a sigh. I let your mind travel to the calmest parts of it so you could sleep. I was working for a little bit, but then I had to get scared, and I'm sorry. He shook his head and pulled me close. I don't care about sleep right now. All I care about right now is that you're calmed down and yet you're asleep. I felt my heart stop and my face was heat up. Right. What's wrong with me? What's happening to me? Do I like him? No, I don't. Maybe. I was falling asleep, but then another thunder crash came following by lightning. The whole power went out and the whole light was gone, and a scream passed my lips. Aizawa held my head and shushed me. It's fine. I'm right here. You're okay. I nodded and tried to look around. I can't see anything. Everything is dark around. Oh my god, I can't see. Aizawa then held my face, and I guess I was facing him. I'm here. I'm right here. Now, I'm gonna get a candle so you can calm down, okay? Just stay here. I shook my head and I felt his hand leave my face. I felt the bed rise back up. I tried reaching my hand around, but I couldn't feel anything. I felt the bed dip again and I jumped back a bit. Hey, it's me. It's okay, it's me. I nodded and he then struck a match. I saw a light around for a second and he lit a candle. I sighed and nodded. There, you can see now. I nodded and held onto the hand. Thanks. He looked down at my hand and pulled it away. It's whatever. I sighed and looked down. Why are you cold to me? I asked straightforward and he scoffed. If I was cold to you, I wouldn't have let you stayed out there in the rain and walked home. I rolled my eyes. You know what I mean? Why do you always do that? Whenever I say something or do something, you brush it off. Why? He sighed and looked down. It It's complicated. I looked at him and raised an eyebrow. Tell me, please. He looked down at me and sighed. Since I saw you, you were different. You were smart, strong, and beautiful. But you made me have these emotions I never truly felt in my life, which is why I'm distant. I have these emotions that I don't know how to control. He looked up into my eyes and I smiled. So you like me? I asked and he scoffed. We aren't teenagers in high school, he said in a disgusted tone. I know. Then why try and make us sound like that? I laughed and moved closer to him. What I'm trying to say is, I know how you're feeling because I lost my train of thought, and as I just looked at him and I took all of his features, I have these emotions about you that I can't control either, I said with a smile. So he did, and so did he. I leaned in closer and our lips touched. I felt his face, and he held my wrist. I pulled back and looked into his eyes. When you put me into that illusion, I was actually imagining this right here. I laughed and laid down. He pulled me close to him, and all of a sudden I forgot about the storm and what was happening outside. I woke up and Shota was already awake before me. I walked into the kitchen and Shota was making coffee with his cat sitting on the counter. Morning, he said, and I smiled. Good morning, I said tiredly. Oh, crap, I have to go to my apartment to get my clothes, I said, and he laughed. We can walk there now. I nodded, and he put on his shoes. Let's go. I put on my shoes and followed him to my apartment. As we walked to my apartment, it was silent, and there was something bothering me. Shota, can I ask you something? He nodded. I don't want to be that girl, but are we the thing? He looked at me and smiled. Well, you made that sound if we were a teenage couple again, and yes, I consider us a thing. But I like to say couple. I laughed and nodded. Right, sorry. After everyone left for the day, I stayed back to grade the last paper and I saw someone walk in. I looked at the door and it was Aizawa. Hi, I said, and he walked to the desk. Hey, you staying late again? He asked, and I shook my head. Not too long. I'm almost done with these, and then I'm going to head home. He leaned down and kissed me. I smiled as he pulled away. I'll see you tomorrow, he said, and then waved. I waved to him, and he shut the door behind him. I bit my bottom lip and laughed. Well, back to grading papers, I told myself, and then got back to work. That's the end of this one. I just wanted to say sorry for the kind of long break. I'm kind of sorting things out, but also hopefully be back. Maybe just doing short stories there and then, and try to figure out my schedule. But for now, it's just kind of there and then, and we'll see where it goes. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and sorry for the long wait. And I'll try to get different ones. So if you have any things, leave it down in the Discord or the comments.